Welcome to Picks with the Professor, the show where a real statistics professor and his friends give you sports betting tips. I'm your host, Professor Sides, and in this episode of Major League Baseball Picks, we'll outline the prices that make for good bets using the predictive mathematical model I've built known as Sideline for games scheduled to be played on Monday, July 17th, 2023. Get you here, check out the webpage on the banner. It's www.pickswiththeprofessor.com/new for some explanations and community rules. Also, if you're interested in projections of picks for every single game, sign up on Dub Club. That link is in the show description. Cost under $1 per day. You'll get money line prices, run line prices, totals, numbers needed for A-grade plays, extra player prop picks that I'll be looking through semi-regularly, at least, in giving those out to our Discord. Again, the exclusive access to that Discord chat comes through Dub Club as well. That link's in the show description if you're not with us already. Remember that sports are unpredictable, so the discussion of this show projects a typical game. It does not try to forecast it to a T, as that would be a foolish and impossible goal. There are no right sides or wrong sides or other prices where any side should be played, whether using my model or someone else's. This is the sort of probabilistic thinking that is key to growing your bankroll instead of draining it. There are ups and downs, but with this sort of thinking that balances out in the long run, it's just hard to foresee before it happens. In other words, please understand that good and bad variance will occur. So while the long run profitability has been proven, winning every single day is an impossible reality for any gambler. Jake, it's been a while. I feel like we had the week off of All-Star break. I was out in Utah for 5 days, and then now I'm in New York, just traveling around the world because apparently that's what 2023 is going to be for my life.
It's fun. I love to travel. I mean, you're getting to see every bit of this country. That's for sure.
Yes, I am. We've 3 days back from the All-Star break. All 3 days were profitable, so that's always fun. I'm going to try to start doing a little better job of recapping the day before, especially for recording in the morning. That was the biggest issue with recording the night before, is that we always talked about the games are happening now, so I don't know what's happening, right? Yeah. The games haven't even started yet, right? So always just switching things up. But recording in the morning, we talk about how we've done this last week, and here coming out of the All-Star break was definitely good times. But like we're always talking about, we don't get distracted with some small ups or small downs. It's that long run profitability that keeps working. The A-grade plays still doing their thing. Just a couple quick reminders for people. The A grade changed the grading system up a couple weeks ago. Went to a fourth tier instead of just three. So when we say B grade pick, that is the old A minus picks. If we say C grade, that's the old B grade. We will also cover one player prop per day going forward. And if you want more player props, you can check out our Discord chat. I'll drop the other ones there, and you get there through Dub Club. Jake, am I forgetting anything to mention before we start talking about today's stuff?
Not that I know of. I mean, we just, like you said, after the All-Star break, hit the ground running. There was no break. It just keeps going.
Yeah, exactly. All right, well, before we get to today's game, some quick reminders. Please hit that like button if you're on YouTube. Also, if you aren't yet, please consider subscribing or following. It's free, and if you turn on notifications, you won't miss any of the MLB, college basketball, college football, or coming this fall NFL content that this channel provides. You can see how I scale my picks on the screen in the Google Sheet with the season results. That link is in the show description. But as always, with scaling and picks, take what you like and leave the rest. No day games today, so we're starting off at 7:05 p.m. Eastern. Dodgers at the Orioles. Dodgers coming off of almost Sunday night game here in New York that was delayed because of the rain. We've had this a couple times now. We've talked about Sunday games being almost as late as a Sunday night baseball game. That game was at least a little quicker than the last time we talked about this. Didn't go extras, but definitely a later ending to them. Of course, a short trip down to Baltimore. It should be a fairly nice day, little warm, little hitter friendly there. Low 80s, wind, slight breeze blowing out. Pitchers in this one, massive edge for the Orioles, in my opinion, with Grayson Rodriguez versus Emmett Sheehan. Don't be fooled by the ERA for Grayson Rodriguez. 7.35 ERA, but his xFIP is 3.90. He projects to be a little bit better than that. I think he will be just fine. Sheehan was a guy who came on really strong in his first two starts, but I mentioned, I think after his second start on show, I was like, hey, y'all don't be fooled by this. It's smoke and mirrors. Sure enough, he's gotten hit around since then. Underlying metrics suggest his ERA maybe should be even higher than 4.35. I really like Rodriguez in this one as a starting pitcher. Both sets of relievers solid enough. The Dodgers, of course, relievers kind of struggling this year, but I think they're not bad. The Orioles relievers, though, of course, pretty good offensively. Dodgers better offense, but this Orioles offense is pretty strong as well. The Orioles kind of under the radar, kind of keep chugging along here, playing really good baseball. No one's really talking about them. Everyone's talking about how crazy the East is, but I don't really hear people talking about how good this Orioles team is. I'm going to be on the Orioles here, minus 108. That's an A grade pick. According to the model, the Orioles win this 58% of the time. That'd be a price of minus 138. So anything minus 120 or better gets an A grade. You could look into the run line if you were interested. The issue is, depending on your book, you may be looking at a reverse run line. Since this one's right around the pick'em, it may be hard to find Orioles minus 1.5. You may be getting Orioles plus 1.5. I would not take a plus 1.5. I just take them on the money line. You can lay a little on the run line if you want. I think the Orioles are going to get to Sheehan and put up some runs against him. Jake, what do you think?
Yeah, I absolutely love this play with the Orioles. Like you said, nobody's talking about them, and they're solid, very, very solid team. Rodriguez, I think he's going to be a stud pitcher here in a little bit. Maybe not stud. That might be too much, but he's going to be a lot better than what it's showing. And one of the best things about the Orioles, if it's a close game in the end, bringing in Bautista, he's almost perfect on the year. I think it's just unreal. So it's as long as there's a lead going in the 8th or 9th, I think the Orioles have this sewn up with him going. And I just don't trust anybody on the Dodgers pitching staff right now. They've got the offense to do it, so there's probably some runs going to be scored in this game, but I just don't trust anybody there to be what they should be, and I think the Orioles win this.
And I think, and I've mentioned this before, I think I only mentioned it on one show, so maybe viewer, if you didn't see that show, my thought on the Dodgers bullpen, and it was a little similar, I think, maybe to what we've kind of danced around here, so I'll kind of just explicitly say the issue. I think they've got guys who I think are better than the results have been. They've just been used so much. The starters, they've all been hurt. Every single starter on that team has been hurt. They don't even talk about a guy like Walker Buehler, who, we knew it last season would be out for most of this season. Now with Kershaw going down as well, I mean, they've just had so many injuries, so many short starts, so many guys called up, and it doesn't help, I think, when you get a guy like Sheehan up there who I just don't, he throws the ball hard and he's got potential. Absolutely. I'm not saying he won't be a good pitcher one day, but it's just really tough to come up from AA, and succeed at this level. It's like he just needs some more time to fine tune things, hone in, whatever you want to call it. And that's kind of been, I think, the issue with the Dodgers bullpen. It's just been overworked. And so I think these guys then, it's like they keep coming in, like they're going to give up runs eventually. And that's kind of what's happening, what you see happening here, the same sort of thing. Another short start would be my thought. And when you're asking a bunch of guys to go out there, 3 of them might be good, but if 1 or 2 are bad, that's 2, 3, 4 runs right there, boom, right there in the bullpen. And that's kind of what has happened to the Dodgers a lot this year. They've had a lot of pitchers do really well, but they've got so many injuries. It's like it's just caught up to them, the wear and tear, et cetera. Jake, I'm curious your thought. Why no one's talking about the Orioles. Tampa obviously was the talk of the town at the start of the season, but the last little bit right into the All-Star break and coming out of it, the Orioles are making a run only 1 game back of the Rays. Second best record in the American League. You talk about the Rangers, of course, has been a good story for people with their record, but I mean, the Orioles are doing better than them. I just don't know why. I don't know if you have a theory as to why no one's talking about this Orioles team and how good they are.
I think it's because they're in a division with the Yankees and the Red Sox, and then the Rays did what they did at the beginning. Like, they're just kind of forgotten. And like with the Yankees being so bad this year, I hate it for them that they're in last place. It's just not enjoyable at all. But they're with all that being talked about and all that, I think they're just in a spot where they just kind of slide under the radar, whether they're good or bad. Just nobody really pays attention, and it might be terrible.
And I would be remiss if I didn't point out the Yankees, of course, 50-44, not a bad record. It's just a really tough division. They're in last place as of right now. And the other team of that division, the Blue Jays, get a lot of talk because of all their young players, their offense, maybe offensively taking a little bit of a step back this year, but still a really good offense. And then you got Gausman on the team, and you've got their pitch stuff. So yeah, you got lots of talking points, and there's nothing to talk about with the Orioles. I mean, they're just a solid team with what Rutschman's done for them behind the plate. Really reminds me of what Buster Posey did for the Giants. towards the tail end of his career. You saw how good the Giants are. I believe it was in 2019. He takes 2020 off. The Giants take a huge step back. He comes back for 2021. Giants are good again. And that's kind of what Rutschman's done for that team. But there's just nothing. Bautista's kind of the big story. I think if you talk about him, how good he's been in relief, has elevated their back into the bullpen towards the top of my ratings. But they're just a good team, and you're not hearing a lot of buzz about them at home. The Dodgers team is good, but you got to look at the starting pitchers, and I think it's a pretty big mismatch here in favor of Baltimore.
Do you think there's any like substance to with the Dodgers playing an interleague game that they might let Sheehan go a little longer than what they normally would to kind of save that bullpen a little bit? Win loss doesn't matter as much.
Yeah, I think the issue with that is with the young pitcher. You always want to save the innings, protect the innings. I think I don't think they can afford to do that really, because they have no idea if he's going to be needed for them in September and October. And of course, the minor league season ends usually right around Labor Day. And so he's, I don't know the exact number off the top of my head. I have to look it up how many innings he threw last year. But if he continues to pitch, meaningful innings for this team, pitch into September, pitch in October, he's going to fly over whatever innings, limit that they wanted him to be on this year. And so, if it was a veteran pitcher, I think that's a little bit of a different story, or a guy who's at least been up for a little bit longer. But no, I think they have to kind of treat it the same way with him, because they don't want him, throwing an extra, couple innings for no reason when that adds up, that strain. And then if they need him, this is the thing, is they don't want to need him in September and October, because they want to get the rest of the guys healthy, right? Walker Buehler will come back at that point, but it sounds like he might be in a bullpen role kind of for similar injury issues. And as much as they would rather have all their other guys lined up and healthy, you can't be that optimistic if you're a Dodgers fan at that point. So I don't think he'll go any deeper than usual because of his age. 7:45 p.m. Eastern, Marlins at the Cardinals. I feel like I have to start off by saying Jesus Luzardo, Miles Michaelis. Luzardo's on my fantasy team. Michaelis is on your fantasy team. We play in the same league. And I just have to comment and get your official statement about how you feel about the matchup that just took place, where you just fell short this last week. If you want to tell the viewer about that experience.
It's miserable because losing by 1 point, right? Like you look back and you're like, oh, there was some bad luck with Michaelis last start getting rained out and all that. And then also I benched Tompkin thinking, oh, I don't want him to eat up because of our start rules, because I always think there's a great chance he goes enough innings to kill that. Yeah. So I bench him. He goes to, like, it's just everywhere I look, it's like, oh, if I would have played that guy, it's enough to give me the win.
I can't believe it was a 1 point game. That is incredible. There's really just no words when you play, especially a 2-week fantasy match, a week and a half, and it's a 1 point contest. I'm sure, viewer, you've been there. That happened between me and Jake in our league. But we do own each of these pitchers here, Luzardo and Michaelis in fantasy. Luzardo 3.29 ERA. Underlying metrics suggest that's about that he is that good. Michaelis been very league average, 4.12 ERA. Advanced metrics say maybe it should be a little bit higher, right around league average. Can eat some innings, which is very important for this Cardinals team. He's been going a lot deeper as of late, and that's exactly what they need because of their pitching woes. Offensively, Cardinals offense definitely better, but the Marlins, of course, not only will have a starting pitcher edge, but a bullpen edge. This is really pitching versus hitting in this one. Weather-wise, we're talking a pretty warm day in St. Louis, almost 90 degrees to start, around 80 to close. Wind will be blowing out. So you have a park that I always mentioned with St. Louis can play pretty pitcher-friendly when it's colder, wind blowing in. But on a hotter day, it can be a little more hitter-friendly, and that's going to be what we see tonight. Pick on this one. I mean, the Marlins at plus 108. It is a B grade pick. Model says the Marlins win 51% of the time. Basically, slightly better than a coin toss at plus odds makes a lot of sense. Anything plus 102 or better gets that B grade. Plus 110 or better gets the A grade. So almost to that A grade threshold. Jake, what do you got for us?
Yeah, I'm all over the Marlins here, even though I'm going against my guy, Nicholas. But I think Luzardo is the better pitcher. And last time these two teams met, like, Marlins took 3 of 4, and 2 of the games weren't even close. And Nicholas got beat up too. He let up 4 against. So I think the Marlins might have their number. the Cardinals' offense has been feast or famine all year. It's either all or nothing, and I don't see him taking advantage of Luzardo. I think they're going to struggle a little bit here. And I think the Marlins win this game.
And, I think the Cardinals are a great team to talk about. They're not the only one, but they're kind of the prime example of this. We talked about this a little bit in the Discord. So, viewer, just as a reminder, as you're handicapping games going forward, that we cannot be just a prisoner of the moment, right? We have to try to figure out a way to assess how good this team is, and we cannot just look at in-season records. And the reason I say that is, Dan Zaborski over on Twitter, a great follow. If you don't follow him, has run for his model Zips. If you just looked at preseason projections, if you just looked at in-season results, et cetera, and has had a couple threads about this recently, talking about halfway through the season, you want about a 50-50 mix between what's happened this season and the preseason projections is kind of your best predictor. And that if you only went one or the other and you just use preseason projections, that would be a better predictor than just using in-season results. And of course, you want to use a mix, but that just kind of illustrates the point that this Cardinals team has been really disappointing. That doesn't mean you just want to write them off and completely fade them. We have to try to figure out a way to do that. Again, my model's trying to do the same thing and trying to figure out exactly how good this team is. So we are fading the Cardinals here today. I don't think they're an auto fade. We actually backed them a lot this weekend. And I think for the most part, that was pretty good results. The game that continued was thankfully a push because the suspension rules for me and for I think probably for most of you that was a push. Thankfully, I think we got the Cardinals as A-grade winners in the other two games. So I'm totally comfortable backing this Cardinals team. It's not that I think they're somewhere between the two. They're not as good as we thought they'd be coming into the season, but they're not as bad as they played either. And so we just have to kind of keep that in perspective. We're going to back them sometimes. We're going to fade them sometimes. I think this is a good spot to back the Marlins at this price, which back to what I said at the start of the show. There's no right side, wrong side. It's that this is going to be a pretty close game at plus odds. This is a good long-term investment here. Model thinks slight edge to the Marlins, even on the road. Jake, I think you and I kind of agree with that assessment, whether you think it's 51%, 50, 49, 52, 53, whatever. It should be a tight contest because this Cardinals offense is better, but even though it's on the road with Luzardo and those Marlins pitchers, you give them a slight edge. You get slight edge plus odds. That's a pretty good combination for a bet, right?
Yeah, totally in for it. And I mean, as the Cardinals, as people keep talking about how they've struggled in their preseason versus what's happened this season, I think that makes a lot of value on them, and you just have to find the right times because I think that's like you said, the A plays a hit. I think they won their last two in a row. So I mean, there's a ton of value on the Cardinals when you start seeing any team really that has high preseason expectations and is way short of them halfway through the year.
Yeah, absolutely. And the caveat, the asterisk to that going forward, because it applies to bad teams, and good teams alike, is sometimes the roster makeup will change. And that's what we're going to see here the next couple of weeks with trades, right? Is that teams that end up sometimes selling off, right? Then at that point, the preseason projection is probably not a good indicator as a whole. That's why, again, I have a player-based model because then I, move the guys off the different team, and that kind of it gives you your team strength. That's kind of the asterisk to this. A team like the Royals, I would say in general, the Royals probably won't be as bad going forward as they've been, except for as they continue to trade off any bit of talent they have. They might actually be as bad going forward because they will actually get worse because there's no reason for them to hold on to anybody with as miserable as they are. Of course, I'm not sure how much talent they have, but that's a whole other discussion. 8:05 p.m. Eastern, Rays at the Rangers. I mean, this feels like I'm in New York for like one of the best series of the year here. Two of the top three teams in the American League playing in my old backyard there in DFW. Of course, I'll be back there for a good chunk of the rest of the year, but not for this one, unfortunately. Shane McClanahan and Dane Dunning. I've talked about McClanahan a lot. I just do not think he's as good as that 2.53 ERA. The advanced metrics say it should be in the upper threes. I think he's a good pitcher. I just don't think he's great like that ERA would indicate. Dane Dunning, on the other hand, or maybe even more so, I would say, really overperforming. I think McClanahan's a guy who's overperformed how he's actually pitched, and the results have been there, but I just don't think it'll continue. I think he's, his ERA is going to start trending up. Dane Dunning, even more so, 2.84 ERA in his 12 starts, but the underlying metrics suggest his ERA should be in the mid-4s. So I think it's definitely a guy that I think is great to fade because I think people are looking at him or creating value against him because people think he's better than he is. The results have been there. I just don't see it coming or continuing to the back half of the season, especially against a team as good as this Rays offense is. Both these offenses are fantastic. It should be a really good matchup here. Model says this is a pretty coin toss game. Rays would win 52% of the time. That would make it for a price of -109. Right now, there's not really a lot of value on either side. But the total, we're going to go over 8.5 here. Model projects 9.8. Locked this in last night, sent this out to our Dub Club, told people we were going to cover it on the show. So we're not just covering on the show what we feel like. I make the picks. Jake looked at them. We discussed, hey, what do we want to talk about? I sent this out to our Dub Club, said, we're going to talk about this on show. It's already up to 9 now. Don't know where the number's going to go. Just another advantage to being with us on Dub Club over there. Now we win at 9. 9's a relatively common outcome for baseball, but I still think over 9 to make a lot of sense. Again, model projects 9.8. Weather-wise, should be a closed roof in Arlington, so no weather to talk about. But with these offenses and 2 pitchers that I think are ripe for some regression in a negative sense, 2 sets of bullpens that are mediocre to bad to terrible, depending on the day of the week and how you look at it. Expecting a lot of runs here. Jake, what do you got?
Yeah, like I think people are still kind of all over how the Rays started the year. I mean, they started off, I can't take anything from it. That was amazing, but they've really come way back to where they should have been. And that's why the Orioles are only a game back. It's so, especially these 2 pitchers, I think McClanahan and especially Dunning, man. I'm sure Dunning is a great dude, but I don't like him as a pitcher. I think they've been very lucky, and these offenses on either side are not teams that you want to be dependent on luck on, because they can absolutely mash when they need to, and they can just absolutely have huge rallies too. So I think this is going to be a run fest, and it's going to be a lot of fun baseball to watch because scoring is fun. But I don't, from a side perspective, I wouldn't touch this with a 10-foot pole because I couldn't tell you what's going to happen. I just think there's going to be a lot of runs scored.
Yeah, I agree. And Saturday's game was pretty ho-hum for the Rangers, but Friday they put up 12 runs. Sunday they had that, yesterday they had that comeback, and against a pretty good Guardians bullpen. And I think that's kind of what we're talking about here with this Rangers offense, and the Rays offense matches them the same way. When you got these offenses that can, score at any time, crooked numbers left and right, and we get with 2 pitchers that. I think Dunning, is very average. I think he definitely should be on a big league roster, should be starting. It's just, I think people are acting like he's so great or whatever. And it's like, I just think, again, the results have been there. I don't think that's predictive going forward. I think, he's for the most part going to be just a league average pitcher, and league average pitchers should get hit around by Tampa. And then this Rangers offense just gets score off of anybody. And again, it's not that McClanahan is even, I think McClanahan's a good pitcher. I just think this total is almost priced as if Dunning is good, McClanahan is great. And I think both are one notch below that. And like I said, these offenses are just so dang good. We're also going to continue that by picking Dane Dunning under 4.5 strikeouts. Here is our prop of the day. So here is the outlier, forecast or whatever you want to call it here. Under 4.5 strikeouts here. You can see Dunning has gone under this number 75% of the time this year, 9 out of his 12 starts. Look at that 10. That's the Tigers, though. The Tigers are not the Rays offensively. Otherwise, I mean, just not a big strikeout guy, a guy who maybe can eat some innings for sure. As you can see here, for the most part this season, pretty consistently going 6 innings. That one Tiger start were, again, almost a complete game. Definitely a career start, but the Rays are not the Tigers. Otherwise, 5 or 6 innings. Is this one as straightforward as just Dunning's just not a high strikeout guy? Why is this number so high? Rays are pretty middle of the pack with regards to strikeouts. Jake, you have any insight for us on this one?
Yeah, Dunning's not a strikeout kind of guy, obviously, but look at his numbers, and I think there's a decent chance he gets chased a little early and doesn't make it to the 6 innings. And when you need 5, you really want that 6th inning to go, so you have a little bit of buffer room. You don't want to have to average exactly 1 every inning. So I think if you think like us, there will be a lot of runs. There's a chance both these pitchers get chased early, and it's more of a bullpen game, and that really hurts your player prop. So for over, so going under, I think is a very smart move here.
And you can see there on screen, Dunning strikeouts per 9, almost 6 strikeouts per 9. To get to 5, that means he's going to have to go 7, 8 innings probably, which seems really unlikely, especially against this Rays offense. Like you said, it may be an early winner. He could easily get faced in the 5th inning. And if so, it's going to be really unlikely that he gets 5 strikeouts in their 5 innings. Not impossible, of course, right? There's no locks in gambling. But definitely a situation where, 2, 3, 4 seem like much more common outcomes than something like 5 or 6. If you are interested in seeing all of these great, metrics here, sign up at Outlier.bet. They are an official partner of Picks with the Professor. Integrates seamlessly with your favorite domestic sports books. It pulls out the price from the Big Four. Allows you to shop around while also seeing all those trends and analyzing relevant data. Sign up today at Outlier.bet/professor for a 7-day free trial. So check them out. And if you are not already playing daily fantasy, also as a reminder, thinking about the player props here, Thrive Fantasy, also an official partner of Picks with the Professor. You can pick an entire lineup of players into a contest against other people, or just choose between 2 and 5 props that you like. If they all win, then you win. New users that use the promo code SIDES or the sign up link in the show description will receive a 100% first deposit match up to $250. So sign up today and take advantage of some free money to play with. Jake, I think that is our show for the day. Any parting words for the viewer?
No, I just want to keep this roll going. I'm going to forget about the White Sox series with the Braves that just happened because that was slightly embarrassing. And
Friday was good for you.
Yes, yeah, and yeah, that's the only game that happened in my opinion.
I think the White Sox are another great example of a team that probably, if we talked about with the Cardinals, can be a great team to back at times. Again, the caveat with with that is, of course, are they going to trade? And the Cardinals are the same way, right? Are they going to trade off some of their players? The Cardinals seem in this weird, maybe we're going to buy, maybe we're going to sell situation. The White Sox, I think, are firm sellers. And so if they start moving guys, that's a question mark. The Cubs, I think, were probably sellers entering the break. Small chance of being buyers. Of course, after this weekend, I think they're firm sellers now. It sounds like they may be interested in moving Stroman since they haven't been able to sign him to an extension. So just a lot of moving pieces. And again, a reminder, this is why I have a player-based model, is because it'll be able to instantly figure out how good these teams are and swap things around as opposed to using team-based metrics. Jake, then I think we will sign off then for the viewer here. Thanks.
I got
one more.
I got a question for you. Do you think, let's put yourself, you're in the Royals GM. Do you think it's more embarrassing that you're having this record and like you're trading off any kind of talent, or do you think it's really embarrassing you're sitting by the phone and nobody's calling because you're just that bad all the way around?
I mean, I think that he probably sits by the phone and has a bottle of whiskey, on the end table, because that's got to be rough. The issue, of course, and it's been outlined, right? The Royals have long been a team that unfortunately has been behind the curve with regards to their player management, player acquisition, et cetera. And you're just seeing it really come to fruition. I looked at their record yesterday, and I knew they were bad, but just seeing the number, I was just like, oh my gosh, like, a AAA team, that's kind of, you feel like a AAA team ought to be able to do that good, right? I mean, the old adage in baseball is, the best teams will win 100 games, the worst teams will win 60. If you put a AAA team out there, they're going 1 out of 3 games. That's mid 50s. And I look at the Royals, I'm like, I'm not sure they're going to get there, which is kind of crazy. And like we talked about too, there's just not. I mean, they traded Chapman already. There's one other reliever that I'm sure people are interested in there, but otherwise, with Singer and the down year he's had. Maybe someone would be interested in Greinke. I don't know about his no trade situation if he wants to leave Kansas City. There's just not a lot else at this point that, maybe Salvador Perez, but again, he's also been a mainstay Kansas City. I don't know his situation, but there's not a lot going on there. It's got to be really depressing if you're a Royals fan. If you're a Royals fan, you may be done on baseball. You may be ignoring them, and if you're watching the show, you're probably just doing the baseball betting and ignoring your own favorite team. As an Astros fan, I had a whole decade of that where I just ignored my team basically and watched other teams, because watching your own team is depressing in that situation. All right, well then we will sign off with that. Thanks for watching this episode of Picks with the Professor. Don't forget to subscribe so you can ensure all the sports betting content provided on this channel dropped right into your feed. Be back again tomorrow with more sports betting tips, but until then, as always, best of luck. And remember, you can eat your betting money, but please don't bet your eating money.